different challenges in our lives. What's important, though, is how we react in response to those challenges. My parents got divorced when I was 2 months old. My mom raised my brother and me as a single parent for 14 years. Now, I don't want your pity. I just had to show where my adversities began. Sure, it seemed unfair at the time, but now I realize that the hardships I faced while growing up have taught me the importance of being adaptable. I noticed pretty early on that my living conditions wavered. We were on food stamps for the first 6 years of my life. I remember going to the grocery store with my mom and riding along in the buggy. We'd play this game where we tried to get all of our groceries for $25 or less. Little did I know that was all the money that we had. We moved as often as my mom could afford nicer homes for us. But with the moves came 5 different schools. At each one, I made new friends, tried out again for my sports teams, and adjusted to the different schools' curriculums. I overcame setbacks in my life, even if I did so reluctantly. I was continuously changing, even if not by my choice. I was molded like clay on a potter's wheel, constantly being smoothed over and transformed by the pressure in my life, but at the same time, shaped until secure. Coming to UGA was a big shock for me. I had to adjust to a lifestyle that was completely different from the one back home. Here, I have the freedom to make my own decisions, however good or bad they may be, without my mom's input. I also have to apply myself and work hard for good grades. Trust me, I learned the hard way first semester of freshman year. If anything, adjusting to my life situations has made me more flexible and prepared. We cannot always choose the circumstances in our lives, but we can tweak and improve our actions in order to overcome them. My adaptability has gotten me to where I am today, and I know that it'll help me be successful in the future.
We all have goals and aspirations. Some are big, some are small. But what happens if we don't achieve those goals? Does that make us failures? This is a thought that constantly runs through my mind, consequently creating a fear of failure. This fear has led me to try to control any and all aspects of my life. Some may see this as a fault, but I've come to realize that while it has its negatives, it is a positive attribute. Being controlling is what led me to achieve some of my highest goals in life. Many of us had the goal of getting into the school of our dreams. This goal meant our continued success with our education and future careers. For me, my success meant becoming a college golfer. If I didn't, I thought I'd become a failure. The summer before my junior year determined my fate. During my very first tournament, I was so concerned with outcome that I micromanaged all parts of my game to the point where everything fell apart. I forgot how to play the game. I forgot how to play the game that was like second nature to me. The controlling transformed my game into something it wasn't and created worse results than were imaginable. This is relatable to hydroplaning while driving a car. Many of us have experienced hydroplaning at one point or another. Like trying to control the outcomes in my life, trying to control a car while hydroplaning will most likely end up horribly. However, if you keep your hands steady and take your foot off the pedal, you'll eventually come to a stop and everything will be okay. Panic and worry is what makes me try to control outcomes. But if I let it, it'll just work out naturally. And just like in hydroplaning, everything in my life will be okay. I've learned to accept my controlling trait, and I've learned to enforce the positives in my life now as a golfer here at UGA. I've focused on controlling my game to the point, I've focused on controlling my game in all aspects, whether that may be physical or mental. I can't control wins and I can't control losses, but something I can control is giving my best day in and day out to be the best that I can be. As I've grown older and I like to think smarter, I've seen how being controlling has affected my life. While it has its downsides, I've seen the positives from the successful results I've experienced. I've realized it makes me who I am and makes me work hard and striving to be the best I can be.
We all know how many decisions we have to make on a daily basis. I'm probably the worst at making those decisions. Do you know how long it took me to think of what to write for this speech today? Too long. Being analytical means using reason and logic. I'm very analytical, not only in the massive elements of my life, but also the smallest details. When I was 10, I went to the lake with my friends. There's this big cliff, and you can jump off of it into the water. So fun. Everybody was doing it. All my friends did it. And there I was, little 10-year-old me, just on the edge, looking down and thinking, how far is this drop? And is my life vest okay? Is it good quality? And how should I land? If I land wrong, how bad is it going to hurt me? So I looked down and I decided to climb back down and jump off from a much lower point. But later on, I realized that my life vest was broken. And so if I had jumped, then I could have been very seriously injured. It's like a med student, and they passed all of their finals and they're so excited and they want to put their hard work into practice, but they aren't prepared to work in the ER. Not because they're not smart enough, but because they can't make that split-second decision. The decision where a girl is rushed into the ER, there was a wreck on I-85, and she's got internal bleeding. She's hurting, she's in pain, she's scared, and immediate surgery needs to happen. That med student can't just make that split-second decision because they're thinking, well, what's the best surgery to do? And what are the pros and cons? If I do this, then how will it affect her? If I make this mistake, then will she die? The med student would be just having questions racing through their mind, and they couldn't make that decision. So although I am so analytical and maybe sometimes too much for my own good, I know that it has shaped my past and it has benefited me so much, and I know that it will benefit me in the future. So I am completely okay with being as analytical as I am when it comes to just all the elements of my life.
So after a little thought, I realized, how lame is it that we're forced into these roles when we're so much more? We're into a million different things in a day. That's why first impressions are usually so completely off base. They're based on superficial things like how we dress, how we speak, how we carry ourselves. The only real way to get to know someone is to observe a day in their life. Now, if you were to observe a day in my life, well, your head might spin. You see, I have this irrational fear of missing out on things, so I tend to participate in everything. I'm an aggressively active person. Concert tonight? Let's get tickets. Friends want to go out on a Sunday? I'll make it happen. 2-month yoga challenge? Hell yeah, sign me up. Let me elaborate. In high school, I was your typical hot mess, well-rounded student. Academics, extracurriculars, but most of all, modeling and basketball. These two things consumed my life, and I soon realized that there's such a thing as being too busy. During my junior year, I got back from a modeling job at 4 a.m. In Chicago, and I made it through an entire day of tests and quizzes that I'd studied for on the plane, a pep rally that I had to plan myself, and then right before the big game, I had my very first anxiety attack. So that was a lot of fun. You see, I've always found bees very interesting. They can spend their whole entire lives flying from flower to flower collecting pollen. But did you know, if they collect too much pollen, it can weigh them down to the point where they can't fly? I realized in my life, I need to be active and involved in many things in order to be happy. But if I take too much on, then I too can feel weighed down. Recently, I've learned a little bit about taking too many things on. We're all Georgia football fans here. It's like a religion for me too. So when I realized I was double booked one Saturday for Music Midtown at the 12 o'clock game, obviously I had to do both. But instead of driving back and forth from Athens to Atlanta, like I originally planned, I decided to just attend the game and accept my fate and just miss out on Friday of Music Midtown. What I'm trying to say is, by being a dynamic person, I'm able to balance many things in my life. A jam-packed day might seem like a lot, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you.
We all know what it's like when it's your 11th birthday and you're sitting there and you truly believe with all your heart that that Hogwarts letter is coming for you. You go out and you check your mailbox, you go check your email because like maybe they've gone digital, and then you see if any owls are coming your way. However, once we reach a certain age, that magic belief, it begins to fade. And that feeling that we're invincible, that anything can happen any day, it begins to go away. Even though I may no longer believe I'll get that Hogwarts letter, unfortunately, I do feel idealistic, although sometimes that naive feeling that I felt since I was a kid. Let's go back to the beginning. When my family went on a trip to Disney World when I was really little, and I got to meet the villain Ursula. While I was very disappointed in her, I told her, I said, "Ursula, what's wrong? Why would you be so mean to Ariel?" And I proceeded to lecture her the whole time I was there. Ursula finally bent down and said, "You know what? I'll try to change for the better." This made me think, oh my goodness, I've changed the entire movie. I went home and rewatched The Little Mermaid a dozen times to see if Ursula would hold up her promise. I kept thinking, this time it's going to be different. This time she's going to change. This idealism that I have is very similar to another character, Olaf. Olaf is the epitome of idealism. He's always smiling and happy, whether he's saying, "Hi, I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs," or, "Oh, look, I've been impaled." He's always idealistic. Even when Sven, the reindeer, is trying to repeatedly bite off his nose during the whole movie, he just thinks, "Oh, Sven, stop wanting to kiss my nose, or I know we're good buddies." And then at the end, when Sven actually tries it, he's shocked. And then Sven gives it back, and the idealism remains strong. Recently, I've begun college like most of you, and I realized just how many people out there are willing to volunteer and do well. As I go through tape, I realize that I'm bombarded with, "Go to this meeting, donate to this, you can do this, give, so there's no more world hunger." And I actually try to stop and talk to the people every time I can, because I feel like if I can do this little thing, I can actually make a difference. I believe we can cure cancer, we can end world hunger, we can stop poverty. At the end of the day, I believe in the betterment of people and that you can strive to be the best possible version of yourself. While some people may call it naive, I'm proud that I have this feeling. Without idealism, what world would we live in? We would live in a world where people don't change and things aren't possible. We couldn't cure cancer. And that doesn't sound like a very good world to me. Does it to you? Thank you.
All right. Well, those were excellent. I'm very proud of you. You're doing such good work. And now you have a free weekend. So if you gave your speech, you are off to the great beyond. I realized that actually meant like you were dying, so I apologize for using that terrible metaphor.